Hello guys, GWS here for the first time in a couple weeks, so sorry about the delay in the new video, but this one's going to be brief. The reason it's going to be brief is because it's like, I want to get to the point of why is marijuana still illegal? And you're going to have Trey Goldie ask the perfect question that triggers a perfect response right here, so let's listen to it.
In case my mom is watching, I want to be really clear. I'm not advocating for the legalization of marijuana. I will be very, very clear about that. However, I don't understand why it's a Schedule One. It's certainly not treated as a inherently dangerous substance for which there is no medicinal value. It takes a tractor trailer full of marijuana to even trigger a mandatory minimum under our drug laws. So is there any appetite for researching whether or not it should remain a Schedule One drug?
Congressman, the administration doesn't have a position on that, but I'm happy to dialogue with your office. And let me just briefly say that we strongly support research on medical use of marijuana. And if there are obstacles that we see that prevent good research, we want to address those obstacles. Because if there are component elements of marijuana that could be put through the FDA process and turned into medicines that could help people in this country, we want to do the
Listen
FDA.
to that
If there
again.
are component that prevent good research, we want to address those obstacles. Because if there are component elements of marijuana that could be put through the FDA process and turned into medicines that could.
If there are, quote, component parts that could be turned into medicines, what does this mean? Turned into medicines and put through the FDA process. What does this mean? What this means is it's not so much about whether there's medical use for marijuana, because how they're defining medical use is the ability to turn it into a medicine, not just its value as an herb. This goes back to everything that I have said. And yeah, this isn't new. In fact, this was released on the 26th, and who knows when Goldie actually asked this, because a lot of these sometimes get cycled through in their older videos. But this is the perfect thing. You have unelected bureaucrats of these agencies. What is their goal? Their goal is to create a pipeline. Not a pipeline for you. The pipeline does not exist for you. Not for the people. But for the fucking drug companies and big pharmaceuticals. That's what this is for. This isn't for you. Nothing for you. You get your pill and you pay for it. You grow your own? No. This is what we talk about when we talk about the regulatory burden of this country. You create a pipeline for which only a large corporation can manage to get through. Being able to survive and have the financial strength to get through the whole FDA process with all their double-blind trials, all the delays, everything that has to go through in order to turn a drug into something that can be commercially viable. This is what we're talking about. But see, and you're not just talking about the DEA here. Because, as you heard him say, this pipeline goes through the FDA. Because they will legalize it when they have control of the market and they can make medicines out of all this. Medicines that you have to pay for. You can't grow it. You got to have a license for that. Just like all this other occupational stuff. Occupational licensing, that's another big thing. But this all gets tied together. You get it through the EPA, you get it through the FDA, you get all these pipelines created, again, None of these pipelines are for you. Same thing for the EPA. All these delays, all these pipelines, they're not for you. They're not for your small business owner. They're not there for you. They're not there to protect you. It has nothing to do with you. It's a pipeline. So, if you want to talk to me about oligarchy, sure, go on. But point to the right thing about the oligarchy. The oligarchy is the unelected bureaucrat creating the pipeline for which the corporation can go through without any resistance, without any competition. And if you want to go through that pipeline, not happening. You don't get that pipeline. You get a fucking jail cell. So don't talk to me about the FDA, the EPA, the alphabet soup of regulatory agencies who are creating all these things for which only large companies can benefit. Because if you want to see your oligarchy, you got it right there. That's what the big government is. So when we talk about reducing the size of government, it is not to implement the oligarchy, it is to destroy its enabler. When you destroy its enabler, the bureaucracy of the large corporation falls apart under its own weight, and you get small businesses who are able to be competitive once again. So, again, listen to this guy's words, watch the video, and pretty much this is the bureaucratic thing. Them being wide open, you don't hear him wide open. As you can see, he's trying to obscure, like, put process behind what he's saying. But the fact is this, is that you don't get an opportunity to hear these bureaucrats be honest often. Like, look at what they normally say. Even what this guy says, like these people here say, they come in with their statements before Congress, they answer questions. What are they trained to do? They are trained to go before Congress and say nothing. They deflect responsibility. They have a circular relationship of responsibility. You know, you say X information is this person's responsibility, so you may want to invite them to a hearing, or and then that person will get there and then they'll deflect to somebody else. You know, it's say as little as possible, come with your best PR statement, and don't don't give away more than you need to. That is the bureaucrat strategy, and this is what's got to go. This is what the founding fathers warned us about. This is the very dangerous thing that is going to kill our liberty. The unelected regulatory body is ripping this country apart. From the DEA, everybody sees it with the DEA. And I'm with you in principle. I'm with you. But you got to look at the whole picture. It's not just the DEA. It's all the pipelines. Not just the ones for the things you want to use. Because if you look at the pipelines being created, the very same thing is being done with energy. They're trying to create a pipeline for renewable power where they go through these government agencies. See, the reason big oil and big coal are not liked and they're trying to be destroyed is because they're not part of the pipeline. Or not, they're loosely linked to the pipeline. Like, they issue leases for public land and all that, but they're also doing it on private land. And the whole ban fracking thing is the same thing. Fracking is mostly on private land, so they're trying to come up with all these excuses to put it under the bureaucratic pipeline. And it's all about money. It's all about feeding particular corporations. And until we get power back in the hands of the people or our representatives, I wouldn't even say power, I'd call it responsibility. Because the fact is, you can have a state of regulations without the bureaucracy. Because if Congress can pass tens of thousands of pages of Obamacare within a year, they can pass a few thousand pages of regulations per year. You don't have to have all these regulatory agencies that have all this unelected power that can create these rules out of thin air and just loosely link them to congressional authority. You don't have to have that. You can have the people have this power. And it's about accountability more than power. It's about responsibility. It is, you are a congressman, you vote for X regulations, you are accountable for that vote. If your vote costs jobs, you're gone. If your vote causes people to be poisoned or whatever, you're gone. You're accountable for where you vote, and we need to make our elected officials accountable again and stop taking responsibility away from them because they don't want that responsibility. They want their jobs. They want those jobs. They'll pay millions for that, but they don't want the responsibility, and you have to force them to take that back. You put more on their plate. They get paid $200,000 for a job they work, maybe half the year or less. I'd say much less. They probably work 100 days a year. Congress. Put them to work. If they got to work twice as much in order to satisfy the regulatory requirements of the U.S., put them to work. They make that money, earn it. That's all I got to say. Thanks for listening, guys. God bless.